We talk a lot about COVID-19 protocols in schools as parents once again try to determine how to keep their kids safe from the threat of coronavirus and the Delta variant. But for parents of kids with allergies and asthma, preventing them from having flare-ups or extreme allergic reactions will also top their list of priorities. So in today's 2-Year Well-Being segment, WFMY News 2's Tracy McCain breaks down the plan that doctors recommend you put in place to limit serious reactions at school.
Tamir and Taj Palmer are brothers, just 1 year apart. They'll go to school together this month with a list of foods they can't eat, which makes their mom nervous.
It is. It's very scary, and it's very scary when they're not with me.
Tamir and Taj are allergic to nearly a dozen different foods.
Tamir is allergic to peanuts, tree nuts, eggs, fish, squash, oranges, apples, pineapples, green beans, onions, and I think I got all of his list. And then Taj is allergic to eggs, peanuts, tree nuts, and milk.
Their list of no's automatically removes yogurt, milk, apples, as well as childhood favorites PB&J and pizza from their school lunch options. Allergy and immunology physician Dr. Joel Gallagher says even having those foods at the lunch table puts them at risk.
Hives over your whole body, throat itching, throat swelling, coughing, wheezing, vomiting, even just abdominal pain.
Extreme cases require epinephrine or an EpiPen.
Here's the more traditional EpiPen.
Dr. Gallagher says if your child has a food allergy, make sure an EpiPen is part of your allergy action plan.
Anyone can look at that allergy anaphylaxis plan and go through the steps if the student is having an allergic reaction.
Updated numbers released this year from the CDC shows 1 in 13 children, or about 2 students in every classroom, has a food allergy. Most of them are allergic to one of these 8 foods: milk, eggs, fish, shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, and soybean. Just added as the 9th major food allergen, sesame.
If you have a school lunch and you have milk on it, and you're allergic to milk, what are our options here?
Thankfully, we live in a world that there are a lot of good milk alternatives. There's an oat milk, which is really healthy.
The plan for Tamir and Taj is centered around a lot of communication between their mom and the school, plus having that plan in place.
With school, I do try to just trust that they'll read over his list and make sure that they're not feeding him snacks that he can't eat.
Whatever it takes, she says, to keep her son safe at school and out of the ER. In Reedsville, Tracy McCain, WFMY News 2.
EpiPens are only available by prescription and they expire every year. Your emergency allergy plan should include an EpiPen that's expiration date is several months out. And remember to give it to your child's school on the first day or at open house. All right, so when it comes to keeping kids healthy, especially with school starting back, the checklist, it can be pretty long. So Dr. Kate Ettefagh with the Tim and Carolyn Rice Center for Child and Adolescent Health. She's joining us now to review a few of those items to help keep kids healthy. All right, first and foremost, let's talk back to school immunizations. Just how important are they, and what should you do if your child maybe hasn't received their immunizations yet or may have just kind of gotten behind because of COVID?
Yeah, well, certainly not every child's favorite part of their doctor's visit. Immunizations are very important to keep our children safe and healthy. And now is a great time to catch up on any vaccinations that your child may have delayed or put off due to COVID. Childhood vaccines protect against many infections that can be harmful to babies, children, and teens. And especially with many children returning to the classroom for in-person learning, it's important that all children are up to date on their immunizations to prevent outbreaks of potentially dangerous illnesses like whooping cough or measles.
Okay. You know, a lot of us kind of put things off in the last year and a half, so maybe even the well child exam may have been put off. What happens during the well child exam? What should you expect? How important is that?
Well, well child exams are an important part of routine child health care, and they really help us to monitor the growth and development of your child. So now would be a great time to reach out to your doctor's office to schedule an immunization or well child visit. During a well child visit, your medical provider will talk with you about your child's nutrition, physical activity, sleep, and behavior, among other things. And this really gives us as medical providers a chance to give personalized advice during the well-child visit to help keep your child safe and healthy throughout the year.
And that's really what we're looking for, is that personalized advice, right? We hear lots of big picture things, but we want to know what is the best thing for my kid. That's what the bottom line is. What's the best thing for my kid? All right, more on how to keep your child healthy all year round. That's coming up next. We are back with Dr. Kate Ettefagh with the Tim and Carolyn Rice Center for Child and Adolescent Health. So we're talking about back to school, and when it comes to heading back to school, just how important is it for that good night's rest? I know how important it is for me as an adult. Kids seem to bounce back faster, but even still, just how important is it?
Yes, adequate sleep is important for children as well, even though they do seem to bounce. Studies have shown that children who get enough sleep have healthier immune systems, better school performance, improved behavior, and mental health outcomes. And, you know, depending on the child's age, there may be different requirements for sleep. Grade school children typically need about 9 to 12 hours of sleep, whereas teenagers need 8 to 10, which is closer to your adult normal amounts. Sleep deprivation in children may show signs of irritability, difficulty concentrating, and in the long term can even lead to health problems. So it's very important to focus on getting enough sleep for your children.
All right, so, you know, this is always the struggle at the end of summer every single year. If parents haven't started that back to sleep schedule yet, what should they do? How can they do it? How can they make it less painful for everyone involved?
Yes, certainly many children and families may have gotten on a different summer schedule during this time, and getting back on your school schedule is important. In general, gradually making adjustments over a few days to weeks is going to be less painful and easier for your child to achieve. I generally recommend making adjustments to both the bedtime and the waking time over the several days or weeks before going back to school.
Yeah, if not, you can at least start it now. It's better than that whole going cold turkey on that first night and then just hoping you get through that first week. All right, so what are the do's and the don'ts for that healthy sleep routine for kids? We have those for adults as well, but kids, I'm sure, is probably just a little different.
Yeah. So, and these things can definitely help with getting back on schedule as well. Having a consistent bedtime routine, I think, is the most important. And depending on your child's age, it may include different things getting ready for bed. Usually brushing teeth, bathing, reading a book are all great activities to include in that bedtime routine. Additionally, you should note that turning off the electronics is very important for children being able to fall asleep. And I typically recommend turning those electronics off at least 2 hours before the bedtime.
2 hours, and that's a big deal, because a lot of them, sometimes they're doing their homework on it, or they're talking to friends. They're not necessarily looking at videos or whatever. They're still talking to friends, but still, it's that blue light in their face the 2 hours before.
Exactly.
All right, so getting out the door in the morning, it can be tough. Sometimes that is the toughest part of the day. Is it okay, because we're in a rush, to either skip breakfast, grab a donut, that kind of thing?
Oh, I certainly understand. Morning routines are definitely hectic in my household, but eating a healthy, balanced breakfast is going to give the children the energy and focus that they need to learn throughout the school day. And that means trying to include fruits and vegetables where possible in breakfast, and especially a protein source in the morning. If your mornings are difficult and chaotic like mine, you might consider preparing some healthy options ahead of time to have quick at the ready in those busy mornings.
You got any thoughts on that? I'm thinking, you know, the cheese sticks, those are easy, right? And that's a protein.
Yeah. Greek yogurt, high protein cereals, peanut butter is a big hit in my house. Lots of different options.
Okay. So now, of course, we're always concentrating on COVID-19 because that is our life these days. What about COVID-19 and keeping kids healthy do we need to keep in mind?
Well, for children aged 12 and older, they're currently eligible to receive a COVID-19 vaccine. And it's important to remember that these vaccines are safe and effective for the ages approved. So I would recommend that parents seek out those vaccinations for their children where they're able. It's also important to be sure to follow any guidelines there are for masking and physical distancing wherever your child will be throughout the day. Masks for children need to be a little different than masks for adults. So making sure it's appropriately sized to cover their nose and mouth and comfortable enough for them to be able to wear during the time that they need to wear it.
All right, all good things to keep in mind. Thank you so much for joining us for today as everybody's heading back to school, getting back into that schedule. If you missed any of this, we're going to put it all on our website, WFMYnews2.com.